Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and welcome to the very last episode of Halloween Havoc 2020. Today on Video Game Nostalgia, we're going to be looking at horror movie video games, Part 3.
Goodbye.
So that's it guys, Halloween Havoc is over, and we're going out with a bang. Well, maybe it's actually kind of a whimper, because today we're going to be looking at horror movie video games Part 3, the best of the rest. And when I say best of the rest, I am really being liberal there, because I don't know if there's a good game in this episode. You're not a looker in the bunch. Yeah, these are some pretty bad games. I'm sorry guys, I don't know why I grouped them this way, but we're left with all 16-bit games, and they're not 16-bit hits. They're 16-bit shits. Anyways, on with the list. I said in the last episode that I owned a version of Bram Stoker's Dracula as a kid that turned me away from trying other and maybe better versions, and it was indeed the Sega Genesis version. My recollection of this game appears to have been somewhat fuzzy because this isn't as bad as I remember. Luckily, by this point, someone had wrestled at least some movie-based video game adaptations away from LJN and Acclaim, but unfortunately that someone was Sony ImageSoft, a company that historically made games in this era I was not interested in. However, as we saw in the last episode, sometimes they don't deserve the hate I bestow upon them, and Dracula on the NES was pretty okay, and honestly there is some good stuff here with Dracula on the Sega Genesis as well. So let's talk about some positives, and I am a dude that loves a cool opening, and Dracula on the Sega Genesis has that in spades, as we get a very cinematic scene that scrolls across a battlefield showing fallen soldiers and grave sites everywhere until we come upon the shadow of Vlad the Impaler, as thunder crashes and lightning flashes. Very cool. We start the game and you immediately are forced into an options menu that lets you choose difficulty. Word to the wise, do not go below normal or it will not let you beat the game. The next section gives you a weird choice where you can choose to increase your health per life or your lives per continue. You can't maximize both and will have to choose a balance between the two, which is actually really kind of interesting. I mean, I would just as soon maximize both, but I guess they didn't want to make it too easy. When the game actually starts, I have to say the graphics are much better than I remember. The characters all look sharp and the backgrounds are very detailed and do a good job recreating the aesthetic and feel of the movie. The music inside the house when the game starts really doesn't fit, but when you get outside there's some pretty decent music, and the sound effects are all pretty good too. Last but not least, the controls are responsive, and it feels like it plays pretty well too. I mean, even in the house at the beginning, it can seem a little confusing on where to go, but there are even arrows at the top of the screen directing you exactly where you need to go. So this all seems pretty positive, right? Well, here's where it all falls apart when we talk about hit detection, because man oh man, when you come in range of an enemy, unless you have memorized precisely where they are and how they will move, there's a high probability you are going to lose some health. I'm sure this is a game where if you play it enough, you will just get used to where and how you should act or attack, but I feel like it should be more intuitive. Another big gripe I have with the game is the boss fights rely more on having a specific weapon than they do some kind of pattern, and that really bothers me. For example, if you show up for the first boss fight without the weapon the guy in the first house told you about, good luck. There is no way to get within range to attack him without getting hit. The The weapon you collect in the first house allows you to attack him from a distance, and basically that is the only real way to approach the fight. This game had potential, but these aspects really make it hard for me to enjoy it, and maybe why I had such harsh memories from my childhood. In the category of how in God's name did this movie get a video game adaptation, we have The Lawn Mower Man on the Super Nintendo. The Lawn Mower Man was a science fiction horror movie that released in 1992 and terrified everybody. Well, sort of. The premise is basically this company is doing experiments with psychoactive drugs and virtual reality and take on a human test subject named Job, who they promise to make smarter through the program. Of course, like any 90s movie discussing future technology, it goes smoothly. Just kidding, it all goes to shit, with Job killing his girlfriend and eventually entering the mainframe as an evolved entity. I remember the movie being advertised as from Stephen King, and that's why we all assumed it was a horror movie as kids, but it turns out that he ended up suing the producers of the movie after the fact. I will have to go back and read the short story of the same name to see if the movie actually ties in or not. The game, in fact, is a sequel to the movie, believe it or not, with Job already being the evolved entity in the mainframe, and you can play as either Dr. Angelo or Carla from the movie. If you remember the movie or have a keen eye, that is in fact Pierce Brosnan, which may surprise people to know that this is in fact his first video game role, and not GoldenEye on the N64. See, you might even learn something while watching one of my videos. The gameplay itself may surprise people because it's actually not terrible, as it's kind of a fun run-and-gun side-scroller to start in the vein of Contra. It actually controls pretty well, and you can collect power-ups throughout the levels to increase your firepower. I will say that I don't know how much smaller they could have made your on-screen avatar. This was really a weird choice by the developer, and especially on the Super Nintendo, where everything is big and detailed, showing off the system's powers. When you make it to the end of the level, you access the computer and are entered into a first-person VR stage, which actually is kinda cool. Your goal is to fly through the maze, avoiding all obstacles to reach the goal at the end. It's one hit and you are done, so be careful. This is fun, but admittedly controls kind of awkwardly or floaty. If you make a wrong turn, it is very hard to change your course so it doesn't respond quickly. You either need to get lucky or memorize your path. This is where the game is somewhat impressive looking, as VR sections like this were a staple on the Super Nintendo at the time and gave the game the futuristic feel the run and gun stages were missing. This was actually my first time playing this game, and my prognosis is it's just okay. I remember seeing the game constantly in bargain bins when I was a kid, and I wasn't sure if it was because the game wasn't very good or the movie wasn't a big enough hit, but after this experience, maybe it was a little bit of both. All I can say is, wow, is this game something, and not in a good way. Disclaimer, I have never once watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, so I admittedly have no nostalgia here going into this game, and maybe that is why my opinion on it is so bleak. It also could be so bleak because the game is awful. Just awful. Or maybe I am missing something. Who knows? Of course, this is another Sony ImageSoft game, where I am going to immediately question the quality, but of course they are just the publisher. The actual developer is Bits. Now, why is that name familiar? Well, Bits have done some development prior to this for such companies as LJN. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Put a different label on it, but it's still the same shade of garbage, I guess. To be fair, not everything is negative. For example, the game starts out with a very cool cinematic opening where it shows lightning hitting the building, and we quickly go inside to see Dr. Frankenstein bring life to the monster. This is really cool, and I love the porthole shot showing the monster's eyes opening for the very first time. Then we transition to the actual game itself, and apparently you are playing as the monster. Again, I have never seen the movie, so I have no frame of reference, but is that what Frankenstein's monster looked like in the movie? It certainly didn't fit my stereotype, so I was a little taken back. I will also give credit as I really dig the aesthetic they use here, showing the rain falling during the level. I will admit I'm an easy mark. You put rain in your game and I will be impressed. The problems sadly start when you start playing and everything just feels off. It has this weird Prince of Persia gameplay style, is the best way I can think to describe how you move and how you attack. I have really struggled to try and enjoy games like this because I just find all the movements to be so awkward and unprecise. Like you are literally fighting the controls to control the game. Maybe I'm just shitty at it and the gameplay is great. Feel free to let me know in the comments. We come to the first enemy and it's a chore to get close enough to hit it with your weapon. You can use a special shot that helps, but it has limited use and may or may not take away from your life bar. I honestly don't know because there is a lot going on here. Eventually, I just got stuck and had nowhere to go. It turns out there are rope pulls on the wall that you need to activate to make platforms start moving so you can progress. You don't do this by pressing a button. I discovered after many attempts and even looking online, I was struggling to find an answer. Of course, you have to press the directional pad up at just the right place on the screen and the platform will move. Sadly, this is done a lot in the game, and it gets harder as you have to pull the rope and then jump up to where the platform is before it moves, which is a chore because your jumps are stupid and you can never land where you need to, and when you do get there, guess what? You miss the platform. I did not have fun capturing this gameplay for this video. If I ever make a bad Super Nintendo games video, this will definitely be there as things stand. I ask again, am I doing things wrong, or is this game really this bad? So guys, that was Horror Movie Video Games Part 3. I don't know if I'll ever come back to this topic again in a future Halloween Havoc episode. I mean, I've done 3 of these episodes now. I've covered mostly all the horror movie video games based on horror movies. I mean, the only ones I possibly left out were like Alien 3, which was on the NES, Sega Master System, the 16-bit systems, and, you know, it's debatable on whether or not Alien, at that point, Alien 3 was even a horror movie. I don't know if it's suspense, sci-fi. Another one was Jaws. I really wanted to do Jaws, but I think Jaws is a horror movie. We grew up with the Jaws movies being horror movies, but for some reason I didn't want to include it. I don't know, it was on the fringe. If this is something you guys want to see me do in the future, let me know. Maybe I missed some. Give me some ideas on other horror movie games I could cover. Or if you want to see me talk about Jaws and Alien 3, and I'll find something else to throw in there, you guys let me know. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me again this October for Halloween Havoc 2020. You know, this is my favorite time of the year. It was my birthday last week. Just turned 40, so that was fun. And I apologize, there was no video last Saturday, but where it was my birthday on Sunday, I was kind of caught up and busy celebrating with my family, so hope you guys understand. Anyways, guys, happy Halloween. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.